Previously on Podcast Without Pretense.
You know, guys, I'm really excited that we're finally going to do an all-audio podcast Krav Maga special.
You know, the weird thing is I don't think I should have written the word dead on my insurance card. I meant the card was dead, not me.
I just wish there was some type of quiz that could determine these things for me. It's got to be out there.
Fun times, that episode.
Yeah.
Last week.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Did you get the Beth thing solved, Iyaz? Because you're moving soon, so that might be a problem.
Well, the one thing is it pays out really well, the insurance thing, but I'm working on it. Hey, I'm Iyaz Akhtar.
I'm Jonathan Strickland.
And I'm Eric Sandine.
And together, we're just three guys who care about you.
None of us truly care about you.
Yeah.
Each and every one of you. All six of you.
How are you doing? Yeah. It's nice to see you again. We missed you.
This is extra if you have the video version. If you don't have the video version, you weren't aware that there was one. Jonathan is staring a hole into your soul with his steely blue eyes.
I could do this all night.
Blue eyes?
I do have blue eyes.
Oh, it's two of us. Iyaz, where are you on this?
I seem to be without blue eyes for some reason. There's a lack of recessive genes sitting around. Although I think my aunt has green eyes, so there's a chance. There's a chance that I'm a carrier.
What I'm hearing from Iyaz is that he demands to be dominant in all things, genes included.
That's right. I'm dominant, and what actually shows is brown. Well, go figure.
Well, you know, let's get this show right on the road because I know that we have a hard out time today. So normally on this show, we like to do something where we pick a really bad movie on Netflix, usually a bad movie, not always, and just get rid of all distractions and see how long a certain movie can hold our attention before we give up and either open up a second screen or otherwise distract ourselves. And it's just really to test our own attention spans. That's the only reason. It's not a contest in any way. It's really just testing our thresholds. So the movie for this week was Cockneys versus Zombies, which I believe Eric picked. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So did you guys watch this film, or are we putting this off for another week?
I watched it.
Okay, so let's see. How far did each of us get before giving up? I'll go ahead and say I got through the whole movie.
I got 53 minutes in myself, and the reason why was I think I got an email about work, and that popped up, and I was like, okay, I have to take care of this.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I also made it all the way through. Yeah.
Okay. So this
obviously not a very bad movie.
Not a very great movie either. It kind of falls in the middle. It's not terrible. It's just okay. I think if it weren't for Shaun of the Dead, I'd probably think it was funnier than it really is. But you have to make comparisons of Cockneys versus Zombies to Shaun of the Dead, and when you do compare the two, it definitely comes up as the inferior to Shaun of the Dead, in my opinion. But you know, it's a comedy English zombie horror movie, so you've got, you know, the comedy and the horror mixed together, and it's apparently we had questions about that.
It was,
but
I had to, like, that was the thing is, first of all, I watched it. What was that? 2 weeks ago, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
So at this point, after digesting it for a long time, I pretty much have nothing to say about it. I kind of enjoyed it. It wasn't great, but it wasn't the worst, hour and a half, 2 hours
that
I've ever seen.
It was sufficiently entertaining, I thought.
Yeah.
I could tell you exactly what my favorite part of the whole movie was. I thought there was one moment in the movie that I thought was actually brilliantly funny in a dark, twisted way, and I laughed out loud when it happened. The rest of the movie, I was kind of amused. I chuckled maybe here or there, but there was one laugh out loud moment for me, and I'm curious if either of you found it as funny as I did, or if I'm just a twisted son of a bitch. So the moment is when, all right, so to explain the plot, the idea here is that you've got a gang of youths, two guys who want to save an old folks home that their grandfather happens to live in. It's going to get foreclosed upon, and some new apartments are going to go up in its place. So they've decided they're going to rob a bank along with a super crazy psycho buddy of theirs named Mickey. It's not really a friend, but someone they know who could actually get things done. And their cousin, Katie, and I forget the sad sack guy's name. But anyway, the gang of them are going to go and knock over a bank. Meanwhile, at one of the build sites for this luxury apartment building complex, they accidentally unleash a bunch of zombies that have apparently just been waiting under the ground for centuries and just waiting to be unleashed. That's really not important. I mean, how the zombies got there doesn't matter. They just need a way to introduce zombies into the plot. So the bank heist goes off. Our protagonists escape with the money. They go back to their headquarters. Meanwhile, the zombie apocalypse is really picking up steam, and the zombies are converging on the gang's hideout, where they were going to divide up the loot and then go their separate ways. So they have to hole up in the hideout. As they're getting ready to do so, they hear a noise, and they look in the parking lot, and there's a zombie mother pushing a pram, a baby carriage. And there's a baby in the baby carriage. And so Mickey, the psycho, walks up to the mom and shoots her in the head, and then picks the baby up. And it looks like Mickey's actually having a human moment. You know, is the baby okay? But then the baby reveals that the baby too is a zombie. Going, yeah. And so Mickey thoughtfully drop kicks the baby. Which then, the best part of this joke, though, I mean, that was funny already, is him drop kicking the baby. But the best part of this joke is that you see the baby fly across the screen and then splat against a billboard that's a billboard against child violence. It's like, stop violence against children. And that's when I was like, that is brilliant. That is a dark, terrible, funny, hilarious joke. That was my favorite part of the whole movie.
Yeah, I actually remember that part. Like that part actually made me laugh. But I mean, there were definitely a couple jokes that actually made me kind of laugh as I was watching it. Like, it was pretty mediocre, but I enjoyed it. Like, it seemed to go on too long, and it seemed to ramble a little bit. Like, they didn't know what they were actually doing with the plot. Like, they had no idea. But
well, yeah, because you had two different plots really going on. You had the plot of the bank robbers and their hostages trying to withstand the zombie onslaught, and then you had the pensioners all in the old folks' home trying to survive their onslaught. And those two plots don't match up again until like an hour into the movie, and by then you're at the downhill slope where the movie's kind of rapidly coming to a conclusion. And some of the jokes just don't work so well. I mean, the whole thing, a lot of it depends upon you knowing anything about Cockneys at all. So they have some examples of Cockney rhyming slang, and one of the pensioners is senile, so his rhyming slang is all off. So whenever he makes a rhyming slang reference, they all look at him, and he goes through a weird stream of consciousness of grouping different things together to finally get to explain why he used a certain term the way he did. And I suppose that's kind of amusing. I mean, I know about Cockney rhyming slang, but it just doesn't, like, it almost comes across as a non-joke joke. So some things like that kind of were a little tiresome. And some of the characterizations, like you had the two main characters are brothers, and one of them is always known for getting the other one into even more serious trouble than he would have gotten into on his own by essentially picking fights all the time. And that didn't really work for me at all. It didn't really come across as genuine.
When you had the montage of how often the younger brother got this guy into trouble by saying, something about like, my fucking brother's here, now you got trouble. This kind of thing where they smashed, I think, 3 or 4 of them together. I'm like, okay, that's mildly funny. And the Cockney rhyming scheme, if I didn't watch The League, I would not know what the hell that was. If you don't watch The League, I highly suggest it. Most of it's on Netflix. It's pretty damn funny. The scene that actually got me to laugh out loud, it was the slow chase. There's an old person who was in a wheelchair outside in the yard. And he's like, I think we start the movie on him, actually. He just kind of hangs out there. It's a full movie. He's there.
He's a peeping Tom, too.
Hamish, I think his name is. So he's
Hamish.
sitting out there, and the apocalypse has happened, but he slept through the whole thing. And eventually the older people are trying to save Hamish. And so Hamish is getting away on his walker. And the thing about the walker is, I mean, he can only walk so fast, but the dead move really slowly. So we have this incredibly long shot. We have this really wide shot that is, and you can see how much of a distance this guy has to walk. But since the dead are so limited in their speed, this chase is going to take a really long time, to the point where the old people who are bunkered up in the house, in the retirement home, decide to come out to save him. I thought that was mildly amusing because they had the super heavy music. We had the quick cuts, and then they pulled away, and I was like, and they kept the music going too, and I was like, okay, that's pretty damn funny.
If it had been shot just a little better, so it looked more like a car chase, but with that same joke, I think it would have been even funnier. It was not quite shot competently enough for that joke to be flawless. I did appreciate what they were doing. I thought it was a funny gag. I just didn't think the execution was as good as it could have been. Like, it would have been great to throw in some other like car chase tropes in there, like the fact that maybe there could be some, like, even just a bowl of fruit that had been knocked off a table. So it's the old fruit stand thing. And he's just very slowly going toward it. And they're like, go around. I can't. Like something along those lines. I mean, you're already going so ridiculous. You might as well completely commit to the joke. But it was all right.
Yeah, the other scene that totally got me that I now just remembered was the zombie football hooligans from both teams fighting in the middle of the street. That one, I remember that they're just running through an alley, and they just happen on like two, competing teams of football hooligans in the streets that just start fighting as zombies. So it is the slowest hooligan fight ever.
Yeah, even when they're dead, they still hate each other. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those movies that I would say, if you are a fan of zombie films and zombie comedy films, it's weird that there's even a subgenre for that. Then you can check it out. It's mostly harmless. It's not really. It's not one of the best comedies I've seen, but it's definitely way better than most of the stuff we watch for the show. So.
Yeah, significantly better.
Look at the ratings on IMDb: 5.9, Metascore of 52 out of 100. I think you guys are nailing it. This movie is just kind of okay. It's there. And like you guys have already said, it's nowhere near as it's not offensive. I think the most offensive thing is the thing that Jonathan found the funniest, and that's even the older folks who you think would be easy prey. These are the tough badass people. So like they turned that on its head a bit. So I mean, there's really not.
Except that's already been done with Red. So
yeah. It's been done to death to this point where, like, old people, I get it. Old people are very powerful. Expendables, Red, this movie. If you're apparently of retirement age, you are more capable of handling some serious shit. I commend you for that. And one day when I get old, I will prove you wrong. I will not be able to handle serious shit.
I was amused. I went through the trivia on IMDb for this movie. There isn't much, by the way, but I think one of them was something like in the World War II scene where the grandfather is going into a Nazi trench. The bolt action rifle is a bolt action, but he never actually pulls the bolt ever in the entire scene. I think that was the only trivia for this movie.
So really,
that's just because the actual it says it looks like we don't have any trivia on this. So either one, you created this trivia.
I did not. It totally happened.
I think that's probably just continuity error or something. You probably saw that in goofs and errors.
It might be in one of those lists. It's IMDb. There's way too many things to click.
Maybe you need to Maybe that's a goof.
So,
Is it a
whose movie pick is it this time?
I had the last one before this one. I had
Oh,
How to Be a
okay.
Man.
So it's
and
my.
Oh, it's totally you.
All right, my turn. Okay, so we're gonna watch a stoner movie because
Great. I haven't seen one of those in a long time.
and Erica, you may have even already seen this one. I don't know. Hansel and Gretel Get Baked.
Yes, I have.
God damn
But
it!
There's 4 movies, man. Witch Hunters, Hansel and Gretel Get Baked, Warriors of Witchcraft. Are they the same stuff?
Hansel
They're
and
just
Gretel Get Baked. No, I watched Witch Hunters.
You didn't watch Hansel and Gretel Get Baked?
I don't think I've watched Hansel and Gretel Get Baked.
Because it's predicting 1.5 stars for me.
doing
2.3
2.1 for me.
2 point what? What was yours,
So-
Iyaz?
2.3 for me. Iyaz.
I had 2.1. Eric's
Okay.
over 2 as well. And the funny thing is, I got that plugin for Chrome that Eric had mentioned, the thing that puts the Rotten Tomato scores along with Netflix. And I don't know what this means. It says critic : -1. I guess
That's
not.
an
Is it not
error.
You know,
that's
and,
I'm getting Rotten Tomatoes at 15% for critics and 53 audience.
So I'm thinking we used to predict how far we would get into these before we turned them off or turned on a second screen. I'm going 10 minutes, a solid 10 minutes before I say, yeah, this was a terrible idea, and I open up a second screen.
It's an hour and 40 minutes.
That,
just knowing
No, it's not. It's an hour and 26 minutes. Hansel and Gretel Get Baked. Are you sure you're looking at the right one?
Yep,
I'm looking
I got
at
an hour
the,
and 26. You're off.
Look at tomatoes. That must mean it's a second one. So wait, Hansel and Gretel get baked. An hour and 26 minutes according to Netflix. But it's got it's got Laura Flynn Boyle. So why is it wrong on either way? Whatever. It's an hour and 26. Now that I know it's less than 90 minutes, I think 7 minutes will do.
Man, I don't know. I'll give it probably about 30 minutes.
Okay. we have established that Eric's tolerance or masochism, however you want to look at it, is greater than both Iyaz and I combined. So
yeah.
I think Eric has surpassed me for times where he said, well, I just kind of forgot and I just grabbed the phone. Like I think I've done that once where I forgot that I was like, I just turned on a movie and I was like, oh shit, I was looking at my phone at the same time. But Eric has managed to do this a number of times to the point where 30 minutes, I think, is high. I don't think he's going to manage to do that. I think he will forget, get distracted by something shiny, and then he'll be on a laptop and he'll be using that. And go, oh.
Iyaz is probably right. My love of shiny things is, I really love shiny things.
I think it's good that I think it's good to pick a stoner movie then, obviously.
I wish I could turn off notification lights on all devices that I own, because pretty much I have way too many things that make noise and blink. So
that's fair.
Kind of like our EMP. Well, I guess you wouldn't be able to watch Netflix, but
yeah, that would
interesting.
Kind of ruin the experience.
One of the reviews says 20 minutes in, this turns into torture porn. I couldn't even imagine trying to watch this while high. Yikes. All right, I'm just going to say, if there's a rape in this movie, I am so sorry.
Okay, so there are more reviews, though. The best film ever, Lara Flynn Boyle's portrayal of a witch, is Oscar-worthy, 15 out of 10.
Is this not rated? Oh, totally not rated. Yeah, that's always a weird.
Bit towards the last 30 minutes, but ends nice. This is intriguing. I can't believe all those reviews on the same page. Okay, so yeah, I've added it to my list, and I'm really glad that Netflix will now give me more suggestions like it, because stoner movies, I think I like maybe one. That might be Half Baked. I don't watch a lot of stoner movies.
Big Lebowski.
Oh, okay, that's 2.
Oh,
that's more like a. Eric just couldn't have.
That's the problem with Eric. He can't hang.
He just runs away.
He's not cool.
Let's see. So it's a new month. That means Netflix has a ton of new movies. Did you take any looks at lists, Jonathan?
No, I haven't looked at any. No, this was one that I had added to my queue and had not actually watched yet. So I haven't looked at the new stuff.
There's a lot of new stuff, including Adventures in Babysitting, one of my all-time favorites. That's right. There's what you like Adventures in Babysitting?
It's okay.
Okay. I agree. If I watched it today for the first time, I'd be like, oh, "That was cute."
They added Leprechaun.
They did.
I'm going to give you. Have you seen the first Leprechaun?
I don't know
with
if
Warwick
I have.
Davis. Okay, well, you know what? I'm going to give once we get Eric back, I'm going to give you guys the option of either sticking with Hansel and Gretel, Get Baked, or Leprechaun.
There are more options,
Wait.
man. We got Boys Don't Cry. What was that? Is Eric back?
Yeah, sorry.
Eric, I'm giving you an Iyaz a choice because now I've noticed that Leprechaun has been added to Netflix. And have you seen Leprechaun, Eric?
I haven't like years. And wait, what? Jennifer Aniston. Is that what we're talking about here?
Yes. Eric, are you on the show?
Yeah, sorry. I know that I've seen Leprechaun. I just had not remembered Jennifer Aniston was in this film.
Well, the reason why I was asking is I'm giving you guys the choice. Like, you can stick with Hansel and Gretel, or we can watch Leprechaun instead. I mean, I am going to Ireland next week, so.
See, here's the problem. Leprechaun, it's given me a 3.2 stars on that.
Yeah.
So
how is that a problem? We've done that a couple times. It's giving me 2.5.
2.1 for me.
And I'd say this qualifies. So
it's probably good. If I'm that high, it's gonna be that bad. I mean, I've watched it a long time ago.
Tag for the other movie.
Yeah. So what are we doing? Are we going with Leprechaun?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm for that. Let's do it.
I just added it to my list.
Okay, I'm going to read one of the reviews. I think, quote, mindless gore fest is a terrible way to describe this movie, which I discovered on St. Patrick's Day on a discount in my friendly neighborhood video shop. The shots of people's feet while running, the leprechaun's modes of transportation, pogo stick, wheelchair, roller skates, tricycle, miniature motor car, etc., and of course his pink pants, which were omitted in the 5 later movies, all made this movie a classic with admittedly some pretty disturbing moments watered down with a ton of fun. All right. Sounds like it'll be a winner.
Yeah. Probably one of Jennifer Aniston's better films.
Let's see. One of the movies I've been trying to get through recently, it wasn't one that we picked for the show, but it was one that I was just curious about it based upon the subject matter, is the horror movie Stitches, which is about a clown that is who dies accidentally at a kid's birthday party. He's a pretty awful person, but the kids are even worse people. And then he comes back to life years later at the birthday party of one of the same birthday party. The same kid who had a birthday party is having another birthday party as a teenager. And he comes back to terrorize all the kids who made his last few moments a living hell before he accidentally died. And it also turns out that you find out that the clowns are all part of some sort of weird secret society, like pagan cult type thing. But mostly it's just disturbing because all the actors look super young, like maybe 14, 15 years old. And these characters are all hypersexualized as well. And so as I'm watching it, I'm like, I am 64 minutes into it. It's 86 minutes long. I have not yet been able to get it all the way through. So that's a tough one.
Stitches.
But it does have some fun gore in it, although it's an incredibly dumb movie. One of the things the clown can do, the undead clown can do, is take his little red clown nose off and tell it to sniff out one of the kids that he's after, and it'll the CGI clown nose rolls around and bounces around the party until it finds one of the kids that he wants to go after, and then he just magically appears next to it. So
So I just went to that Netflix page, and it says recommended based on your interest in Leprechaun, Hatchet 2, and ATM. Have you guys ever seen ATM?
What's ATM?
Yes, I have. It's a movie. It's a movie about a group of friends who stop at a secluded ATM in a parking lot. It's a freestanding ATM in its own little room. So they stop to go. It's on a super cold night. They stop to go in there, and then they get stalked by a killer for the rest of the duration of the film. And as I recall, one of the male protagonists is essentially framed by the killer to appear as if he were the killer, despite the fact that none of that makes sense based upon all the video footage that's found. You know, because you're watching the movie as if it's, at least once they get to the ATM, you're watching a lot of it as if it's from the security camera footage. Not all of it, but some of it. And it's pretty clear in that there was a totally different killer who was responsible for it, but somehow it ends up being blamed on the protagonist. And I can't remember if there was a reason why the killer targeted these guys or not. I couldn't remember if that was ever established or if it was just random. But am I on the right track, Iyaz, or did I just describe the totally wrong movie?
No, I think you're on target. I don't remember how it ends because I don't think I've ever finished the damn thing because I watched it because I watched Devil. If you put anybody in an enclosed space and they have to get out, I want to watch that for some reason. Buried,
yeah,
I've seen that.
Yeah, Buried. Out of the three, Buried is the one to watch because Devil was shit.
Devil. Okay, so wait a second. If you watch a lot of NBC television, you've seen some of these actors before, and one of them was like a sidekick on The Single Guy, and he played Waz in one of these TV movies, and he's like this little sniveling, shitty comedian who's just such an asshole that I wanted to watch him in this movie Devil more than anything else, let alone what.
Have you read the tagline to Devil? Like, I just have to read this because I just looked it up. Detective Bowden must save 5 people trapped in an elevator, and he has to do it fast because one of them is the devil. Yeah. That is the tagline to this movie.
I remember
seeing to be horrible. This has to be horrible.
It's a Shyamalan movie. Of course it's horrible. I saw the previews for this in a movie theater at one point, and I remember when Shyamalan's name popped up, everyone cracked up in the audience. Which is not a good sign, by the way.
I think you're thinking of another elevator movie.
No, this is John Eric Dowdle, apparently.
Wasn't Shyamalan one of the producers for this?
Ooh,
I don't know. Now you are watching live continuing coverage, recorded continuing coverage of us looking up movies while we are talking to you. I'm just going to blather on looking up.
I could be wrong, but I could have sworn that this was the. Well, I've certainly seen this one. That's
wrong. But you are also the winner because he was a writer of the story.
He was a writer? Aha. Suck it.
Also be a producer, but as a top billing, he gets that.
And the twist in this one, by the way, so I can I think we lost Eric again. But the twist in this one to solve the issue, if you do not want Devil spoiled for you, don't watch the movie because it's not good. But the spoiler in this is that it's not, the twist is not who's the devil inside the elevator. That's superfluous to the story. It turns out that the detective who's not in the elevator, who's trying to rescue the people, is in fact the target that the devil is aiming at, not anyone in particular in the elevator, as I recall anyway. And it's terrible.
The coolest thing about Devil is I think they start off with an aerial shot of a city and you're flying in, but it's upside down. It showed you upside down. And it's kind of a really neat shot. That might be the best parts. Once you get past the opening credits, I'd say stop watching the film because it's actually it's not very good.
No,
it's like I said, I liked the idea of trapping people well, not the idea of this, but the movies about these things.
No, no,
'Cause
no. I think you were saying what you meant to say.
Yeah, I think you accidentally slipped that I like trapping people in small spaces. I am moving to an apartment in Manhattan, so I guess I will be doing this.
Yeah, you're doing that
Well,
already.
you know, I think
Segment stuff.
the movie to me comes across as if it were an episode of Tales from the Crypt. Like that's what it feels like to me. It feels like it could have been an hour-long Tales from the Crypt episode, or maybe even a half-hour-long Tales from the Crypt episode, and been just as effective as the hour and 20-minute long movie that it actually is.
That sounds right to me. A lot of M. Night Shyamalan stuff, including The Happening. The Happening could have been a really, really mediocre episode of Twilight Zone at 22 minutes,
Yeah,
and it's an hour and a half. And
I
there's
never
so many
saw.
of these.
I never saw that one.
Do you know about it?
Is that the one that the Happening? Is that the one with the plants rise up against people?
Sort of.
That happened.
It's not that they
Yeah,
rise up.
yeah, yeah,
People are
totally.
killing themselves. But it's these, yeah, the plants are not plants, like not physically moving, but they are rejecting the people. And they're like, when the most ominous scenes are of wind,
Yeah,
really hard to sell this. I think you could have done it on a Twilight Zone episode. Again, 22 minutes, and it would have been decent because there's some really like horrifying visuals of people like on a construction site that are on a high building just walking off, impaling
Yeah.
themselves. These are horrible deaths. These are really elaborate deaths. But to say it's nature rejecting the people, it's like if you could cut together two movies, you put Signs together with this, I think you could have something fun. Someone needs to
Yeah.
remix the movie.
I think I haven't seen The Village. That was another one, right? The Village. That was the one where the young lady escapes the oppressive village only to discover that it's actually that it looks like it's a period piece, but it turns out she's alive in modern day America, and it's just a very sequestered, cloistered community that tries to reject technology, and that once she gets out, she realizes that she's in a totally different world than what she thought. That one also sounds like a Twilight Zone episode, and also sounds like it would have benefited from being 22 minutes long.
So I was looking at the list of Netflix, all the new stuff, and there's a ton of old Godzilla stuff. And I'm psyched. I was the guy who bought like every Godzilla thing. I think it was Sam Goody. That was a store when I was growing up.
Yes, I remember
don't know if
that.
it was a music
now, they
store.
sold
And
physical media, right?
back then, when you wanted to buy music and movies, you would go into a store. They would have boxes of things, and you would try to find like a movie, and they were alphabetized, and that would change from week to week because it's Wednesdays. These new physical things would come in.
Much
And-
like the kids these days, like those vinyl records.
Yes.
They seem to be coming back.
The kids my day used to like vinyl records, so I still have them actually.
And now you're
But,
cool again.
Yeah, no, I'm cool for the first time.
So I see on our very secretive doc that Jonathan has put in the International Godzilla trailer, hitting the internet. I watched it today. I'm assuming
Yeah, pretty good, huh?
Eric, have you seen the trailer for Godzilla?
I watched the early trailer, but I think it was only like the 30-second one. I haven't seen the full one.
Yeah, the full one has more Bryan Cranston in it, and it also reveals that there are other kaiju involved besides Godzilla.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. I mean, that was something that if you watched the first trailer very closely, you might have seen a hint of that, but now it's confirmed.
I saw some of the press shots of the filming, but
Yeah.
I just didn't see it in motion. But yeah.
I'll probably go see this. I'm not a huge monster movie fan these days, and I mean, I never even saw Pacific Rim. I never got around to seeing that. So, but I imagine I will get around to seeing this one. I'll if I am going to see it, I should see it in a movie theater because this is made for spectacle. So
Pacific was surprisingly good, by the way. Like
that's what I
It's
heard.
what
A lot
I've
of
heard. Yeah.
yeah.
I haven't seen it either. honestly. So.
Well, because there's a real ton of crappy monster movies. If you watch I think the '90s Godzilla one, that is a prime example of a bad movie. King
But
Kong.
it
If
had
you
a
watch
great soundtrack. Come on, the lead song was by Green Day.
I was thinking of what about the Puff Daddy
Oh
remix
no,
of Led Zeppelin?
that was also the lead song.
That was
from
also
that
Godzilla.
movie. Yeah.
I remember this. But if you watch Peter Jackson's King Kong, that's like, I think 30 to 40 minutes too long. Go figure, Peter Jackson having an extra long freaking movie. So I didn't think that hit, but Pacific Rim is pretty good. Godzilla looks good. I'm obviously burned by the early Sony Pictures one, but the worst thing happened. I just go to a craft store because this is what I do. I went to Michael's the other day, and there's a big fucking poster of Godzilla from the movie, completely spoiling the image of it. I know we see him in the trailer, but when you see him like clear as day, it's kind of like, what the fuck was that? You just have a giant spoiler on it. This movie's not out for a while. This kid's poster.
You've learned your
hang on.
lesson. Stop going to Michael's. Also, there seems to be more to this story.
No, I think, yeah, the more to the story, like why was he in a craft store? We'll get to that.
Yeah.
First though, I take issue with you calling it a spoiler for a poster for a movie called Godzilla that shows fucking Godzilla on it. It's fucking Godzilla. We know he shows up. He's in the title.
The way Godzilla is going to be portrayed, is it going to be more like the Toho stuff? It does look more like the Toho stuff. Is it this giant iguana-based thing that they did in Godzilla in the Sony Pictures one?
Wouldn't you want to know that before you go see the movie? Wouldn't that be a deciding factor for you? Like if you saw it where it looked more like the Sony one, that wouldn't tell you, you know what? I didn't like the last one. I'm just going to take a pass on this one. Or you would actually inflict it upon yourself, even knowing that you're predisposed to not like it. Oh, wait. I'm sorry. You're Iyaz. You hate everything fun. Of course you're going to go show yourself a bad time.
That's right. He's just going to go for the pure punishment of it.
Yeah.
When I saw the monster of Cloverfield, when I actually saw what it was, and I saw the designs for it, it didn't look as impressive as it actually did in on the big screen. I was going to say in film, but it's not really film anymore anyway. But this idea of it moving and the way it's shot really makes a huge difference, because a lot of the stuff I watch, a lot of superhero stuff, looks really stupid if you're just standing still in broad daylight. But if you're moving around in a shot well, it looks pretty good. So that's why I have issue with this. And yes, should I tell you why the hell was at Michael's?
Sure.
Please do.
All right. So way back, this is a long story. Way back in October.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Do we need to have a fog machine? Do we need like music and special effects way back?
Way back in October, we bought a Jason Voorhees doll, and it was for a Halloween decoration. And then the idea came next month. I was like, you know what? Why don't we just decorate Jason instead of buying these other stupid things? I don't like decorations too much. I think they're a waste of money. So Liz is way into that. So she's like, sure, we'll go out to Michael's. I go, cool. I usually go to Michael's. I used to go there for like weird gadgets and stuff for know-how, because you could find the weirdest shit there. Because you have these little wooden boxes, like the prompter. See, look, this stupid little box that's a teleprompter is like from Michael's, right? So it's like $4. And I'm not sponsored here. But like these stupid little things that you wouldn't find, little crafts, is totally what I do. So we go into there, we buy a bunch of stuff. The last time we were there was Liz wanted to decorate Jason because we're moving to New York, and she wanted to dress him up in a New York way. So we had to find things that would fit Jason, and Michael's is a place for that. And that is why I was at Michael's the last time.
I like that Iyaz explains that that decorations are a waste of money. Unlike a Jason Voorhees doll, that's a fucking investment.
Yeah.
Hey, that has been around. It's been through a lot of holidays. The Valentine's one was pretty damn awesome. It had a necklace that lit up. It's like, if you're gonna do this, do it small.
I like that. I like that she wants to dress him up in a New York way, when really all you have to do is just watch Jason Takes Manhattan. You know.
I should have done.
In which
Right.
case, really, it's more, what was it, Toronto they shot in or something like that? Like, I think they had one shot of New York in that whole movie.
Mhm.
Most of it takes place on a boat.
There's that and Rumble in the Bronx, the beautiful, beautiful Bronx with the mountains in the background. The Jackie
Yeah.
Chan movie, which really shouldn't be called that. And I'm going to say for trifecta, another movie that has the name has nothing to do with it. The Karate Kid with Jaden Smith.
Iyaz, maybe next time we can have tea together. One of my favorite lines from Rumble in the Bronx. And then the bad guy says, "Do you think he meant that?" That actually, the best line in all of Rumble in the Bronx happens on the beach when one person points down the beach and in a panicked voice screams, "Hovercraft!" Best line in the movie.
Is that one's sort of dubbed? Am I thinking of another? I'm thinking of Super Cop.
No.
Super
no,
Cop is
Rumble in the Bronx
Rumble's
is sort of
dubbed
dubbed too. Yeah. Yeah, no,
Okay.
but it's some of Jackie Chan's most creative choreography. Rumble in the Bronx. It was back before he had hurt himself so badly that he started to fade out doing his own stunts. It's kind of funny. I saw an interview with him after he had done a lot of these movies, and he said, originally he would do his own stunts because they just didn't have the budget to hire any other stunt performers, so he was kind of forced to. But then he ended up getting a reputation for being the guy who does his own crazy martial arts stunts. And then it became an expectation. So even when he had enough money to get a stunt performer to do it, there was such an expectation that he didn't feel like he could afford to do it, like from a fan perspective. So he kept on doing his own stunts. And so, if you watch a lot of Jackie Chan movies, stay around for the credits, because usually they have a whole sequence of stunts that didn't go quite right and sometimes result in him breaking a bone. In Rumble in the Bronx, he broke his ankle and then had to wear a cast that had a little inflated sock on it to make it look like a sneaker.
That
Good
was pretty damn
times.
funny. I remember seeing hanging like you saw this really, it looks like somebody colored it with like a magic marker. Like it's not done well at all. But you have this little sock that's over it that shows that it's a Converse sneaker.
Yeah.
I think there's more than one cast that's covered up with Jackie Chan.
That wouldn't surprise me.
I totally want to talk about Jonathan's last story that he has on here, which is kind of old, I guess. But
Yeah.
digging up the Atari ET cartridges. And
Sure.
the reason I want to talk about this is because it's in New Mexico.
Yep.
But that's not why. But it's because if I ever wanted to bury anything that I didn't want anyone to ever find, I would do it in Alamogordo, New Mexico. And now I am not allowed that luxury because people are just down there just digging it up, looking for shitty games.
So haven't found ET yet, but there are two legs we came across, and a signed note saying "Why I Did It" by Eric Sandine. Eric, we keep telling you, don't leave a signed confession along with the evidence.
Listen, Alamogordo is a great town. They have nice wineries, and if you want to buy like 10 pounds of pistachios, they grow pistachios down there. That's pretty cool.
I like that you were talking about if you ever needed to bury something, you would go there to bury it. And now you're the fucking tourist cultural affairs guy. So the reason why
visit Alamogordo.
The reason why I even put that story in the lineup, apart from the fact that, geeks everywhere who are video game fans were kind of following the story with sort of interested, morbid interest, really, to see, in fact, if this urban legend had any truth to it. The real reason I put it in there is because I had an Atari 2600 and I had E.T., the extraterrestrial. So I actually had this game and I played it and yeah, it was terrible. It's a terrible game.
Were you really playing it?
Yes.
Because I've tried to play this game and you're not really playing so much.
You're playing it. It's just that the gameplay sucks.
Yeah.
Here's all right for anyone who has not played E.T. the Extraterrestrial. Here's the basic premise of the game. Here's how you play. You play as a vaguely ET looking ish block, and you go into a field that has, I think, 4 different pits in it, maybe 5.
Yeah.
And you push the button, the one button on the Atari joystick controller, which makes your head go up, and you make a little wah noise. Then you look at the pits, and you look
which actually
for,
sounds significantly worse on an Atari, by the way.
Yeah,
Than
it does.
Jonathan just made it sound.
Yeah, I cannot even hope to emulate the Atari sound effect. But then you would see, assuming that there was a piece of the intergalactic phone you're trying to assemble in one of the pits, you'd see a little flash indicating it in one of the pits. You'd have to walk over to the pit, fall into it, then pick up the piece of the phone. Then you press the button. And just as we all know from the film E.T. the Extraterrestrial, when you extend your head, you immediately start floating up in the air. That happens so many times in the movie. I mean, apart from the one flying scene with the bike, you never see E.T. do anything like that. But anyway, flies out of the pit, and then you keep playing. Like, you may have to go off another screen or two, come back, and then try it again to get the other pieces of your phone. Once you assemble the phone, you go to another location. You have to actually find the right spot to make your call. You make your call, and then the mothership comes down and picks you up and takes you off. And then the whole thing starts over again. Meanwhile, you've got a couple of bad guys who will take you away and put you in a little jail. All that really does is slow you down, so it takes some of your time away. You've got a little timer that's constantly ticking down. Occasionally, Elliot will show up and give you, I think, Reese's Pieces so that your health is all right. And that's pretty much it for the game. That's really all there is to it. And it just repeats itself over and over again. And, it was one of those games where it was a really terrible license. It was not at all what anyone would expect based upon the movie. They paid a huge amount for that license. I think it was something like $30 million. It was crazy. It was a crazy, or maybe it wasn't that much, but I remember that I remember hearing that they would have had to have sold all like 5 million copies that they produced in order to make their money back, and they sold fewer than 3 million. So
I mean, it's really funny because obviously development costs for this game were not super high.
No, the guy who developed it was put under a super tight deadline too. So that somewhat excuses the quality of the game. I mean, he had no time to develop anything. So, considering that it's still like it works, it's just not a good game. This and Pac-Man, that was another Atari license that was terrible. It barely resembled the original game. Both of those are ones that people often will cite as key contributors to the video game home market crashing in 1983. And I had the Atari 2600. I had both of those games. So they were
So it's all
terrible.
your fault. Is that what you're saying?
No, I was trying to keep the whole industry afloat by buying their fucking games.
The other thing is that with the game ET, when you would go into these pits, didn't it become impossible to get out?
Yeah,
Thereby,
no.
No, wait. Go ahead, Jonathan.
It's not impossible, but it is a little tricky because you had to float up, and then as soon as you floated up, it would switch to a different screen where it was a different view. Like when you're in the pit, it was like a profile view of ET. Yeah, and then you would float up the pit. But when you got out of the pit, it would suddenly cut to an overhead shot, and suddenly the controls were switched. So you had to very quickly change the direction on your joystick to float ET off the side of the pit, or else it would just fall right back down again. And every time you use that floating power, a lot of ET's energy would be drained as a result. And your energy was essentially your timer. As your energy goes down, you have less to work with, and you're more likely to have your little character die. Dumb game. Terrible game. Deserve to be buried.
Alamogordo is a horrible place. Yeah, just don't go there. There's nothing buried there.
Yeah, nothing is buried there, and really, pistachios give you the gout. So don't get them.
Yeah.
I found a link to the New York Times 1983 piece. The New York Times actually published all their archives. As Atari parts are dumped, it says the company has dumped 14 truckloads of the discarded game cartridges and other computer equipment at the city landfill. Guards kept reporters and spectators away from the area as workers poured concrete over the dumped merchandise. I mean, how bad does a game have to be that not only will you just destroy the inventory, but you have it buried under concrete?
It just makes me think that there was probably a mafia boss in charge of getting rid of the look, there's only one way I know how to do this, right? You put it in the hole, you put concrete over it. That's how I do it. that had to be the reason.
In New Mexico, that's the way it worked. You want us to take care of it. That's how we take care of things. But I don't know what New Mexico.
You said take care of it.
No, it's true. I'm pretty sure the actual factory was in Texas. So they're just like, hey, could you get rid of something for us? And somebody in Alamogordo is like, yeah, we can get rid of that.
Yeah. You're right. The spokesman said the equipment came from Atari's plant in El Paso, Texas, which
Yep.
used to make but it has been converted to recycling scrap. Atari lost $310.5 million in the second quarter, largely to a sharp drop in video game sales. And that was September 28th, 1983. What the hell does that translate to now in today's money? I have no idea. And that's what
$50 billion.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think 83 money versus today is that stark of a difference, but it might be.
It's a long freaking time ago.
Yeah, and there were so many problems that Atari and the home video game market had at that time. It wasn't just that you had a couple of high-profile, awful games like Pac-Man and E.T. It was that the market was absolutely flooded with different consoles and different games. Atari, unlike Nintendo, didn't have any kind of certification process, so anyone could develop games for it, which meant you had a lot of knockoff games that were pretty terrible. And you would go into a toy store, because that's usually where you would find the video games at that point. You go into a toy store, and there'd just be bargain bins filled with these things because there were so many that were hitting stores. There was no way to move that kind of inventory. And yeah, the whole thing just collapsed in on itself. It was its own little industry bubble. So should serve as a warning to others. And yet we tend to repeat those same mistakes, whether in video game industry or others. But yeah, I mean, interesting story. I'll probably watch the documentary once it's completed. I know that they wanted to test some of the cartridges and see if they could still be playable. So I'm curious to see if any of them actually survived enough to be able to. I had always heard that they had been ground up before they were dumped, but apparently they found some, at least, seemingly intact cartridges. So
yeah, they show anyway. There's an image holding up a cartridge, and the question is, I mean, you think the documentary is going to do well? Does this have enough of a interest?
I don't know. I mean, at this point, everyone's heard the story, right? I mean, it's kind of makes me wonder what story does the documentary have left to tell. But I'll watch it.
I'll watch the documentary. I like thinking about the concrete structure over the Atari ET games as the concrete shell over Chernobyl, and we're going to have to build another one now that someone's dug through this one.
I'm just glad they didn't find some sort of nether portal to the dark reaches of hell or something underneath all of it. And
if they did, that's a documentary that they'll put out later.
Yeah,
just in case.
Speaking of later, maybe we should look into the future.
Shall we?
Sure.
Next week on Podcast Without Pretense.
All right, guys. I wanted to change it up. Instead of watching a movie this week, we're all going to play E.T. the Extraterrestrial on my Atari 2600.
Now, see, I have a better idea. What we're going to do is we're going to listen to Morse code, and the person who figures out what we're doing is the winner.
I wasn't arrested in Alamogordo. I was arrested in Roswell. They're two completely different municipalities.